Hi and welcome to SQE Success, your pathway to becoming an English solicitor. In this video, we'll explore 3 scenarios involving nuisance, a key topic in tort law under FLK1. Let's dive in. A homeowner starts major construction at home, using heavy machinery. The work causes very loud noise, dust, and strong vibrations, disturbing nearby homes. One neighbor, who works from home, finds the noise and disturbances particularly disruptive, hindering his ability to work. Another neighbor, who has a respiratory condition, finds his health getting worse due to the dust. Both are thinking of taking legal action. Which option best describes the homeowner's potential liability and nuisance? A. The construction work could be considered a public nuisance affecting the broader community, allowing any affected party to seek action if they can demonstrate particular damage beyond general inconvenience. B. The construction work is likely to be actionable as a private nuisance by the neighbors, given the direct interference with the use and enjoyment of their land. C. The homeowner could be liable for public nuisance due to the widespread impact of the construction work. D. The disturbances caused by the construction work are unlikely to constitute either public or private nuisance, as construction is a temporary activity and considered a reasonable use of the homeowner's land. E. The neighbors could action the construction work as a public nuisance if they demonstrate that the noise and dust are not only a personal inconvenience but also affect the rights common to all residents in the area. The best answer is B. The construction work is likely to be actionable as a private nuisance by the neighbors, given the direct interference with the use and enjoyment of their land. This situation involves private nuisance, because the harm is specific to individual neighbors, not the general public. The interference, noise, dust, vibrations, affects their enjoyment and use of their homes. Even though construction is lawful, it must be carried out reasonably and without causing excessive harm to others. The courts will look at factors like duration, intensity, and whether the impact could have been avoided or reduced. Scenario 2. A government authority begins demolishing a nearby building as part of an urban redevelopment plan under statutory powers. The demolition involves loud noise, dust, and heavy vibrations affecting surrounding homes. It is agreed that the authority has taken reasonable steps to mitigate harm. However, one neighbor, who works from home, finds it hard to concentrate. Another neighbor, who suffers from a respiratory condition, feels his health worsening because of the dust. Both are considering legal action against the government due to the impact on their health, work, and enjoyment of their property. Which of the following best describes the government's potential liability and nuisance? A. The demolition work could be considered a public nuisance affecting the broader community, allowing any affected party to seek action if they can demonstrate particular damage beyond general inconvenience. B. The demolition work is likely to be actionable as a private nuisance by the neighbors, given the direct interference with the use and enjoyment of their land. C. The government could be liable for public nuisance due to the widespread impact of the demolition, but only if the affected neighbors can prove that the work presents an obstruction or inconvenience to the public at large. D. The government is unlikely to be liable for public nuisance in view of the statutory authority defense. E. The neighbors could action the demolition work as a public nuisance if they demonstrate that the noise and dust are not only a personal inconvenience but also affect the rights common to all residents in the area. The best answer is D. The government is unlikely to be liable for public nuisance in view of the statutory authority defense. When public authorities carry out statutory duties, like demolition or roadworks, they are generally not liable in nuisance as long as the work is a. Done within their legal powers, statutory authority, b. Conducted reasonably, and c. Any harm is an inevitable result of carrying out the work. This defense is known as statutory authority. It protects public bodies from nuisance claims if the nuisance is a necessary consequence of lawful public work. Scenario 3. A construction company is hired to demolish an old warehouse. Partway through the project, the company is placed into liquidation and abandons the site, leaving large piles of rubble and debris exposed. In the weeks that follow, dust from the site spreads across the surrounding neighborhood, carried by the wind. Residents report breathing difficulties, dust coating their homes and gardens, and a significant loss of enjoyment of their property. Can the construction company be held liable in nuisance? A. The company could be liable for public nuisance if the dust affects a section of the public and causes particular damage to some individuals. B. The dust problem is actionable as private nuisance by individual homeowners affected by the pollution. C. The company cannot be liable, as the nuisance arose from abandonment rather than ongoing construction. D. The construction company could be liable for public nuisance only if the dust affects all residents living nearby. E. The company cannot be liable as it is in liquidation. The best answer is A. The company could be liable for public nuisance if the dust affects a section of the public and causes particular damage to some individuals. Public nuisance applies where an activity, or in this case, failure to act, endangers the health, comfort, or convenience of a class of the public. The construction company's failure to complete the demolition has resulted in continuing pollution, affecting the neighborhood as a whole. Individual residents may bring a claim if they show they suffered special damage, e.g., breathing difficulties, property damage, beyond what others experienced. Abandoning a site doesn't shield the company. Liability can arise from omissions, not just actions, if the result causes significant harm. Being in liquidation affects enforcement and recovery, not the existence of liability itself. This table illustrates how nuisance liability depends on who causes the harm and how it affects others. In the first case, the homeowner's construction caused noise and dust affecting specific neighbors, making it a case of private nuisance. Even lawful work must be done reasonably to avoid disturbing others. In the second case, the government was demolishing a building. Since it acted under statutory authority, it's generally not liable for nuisance if the work was lawful, reasonable, and the harm was unavoidable. In the third case, a construction company abandoned a demolition site, and dust spread through the area. This could be public nuisance, affecting many people. Affected residents can claim if they suffer special damage, and the company's liquidation doesn't remove liability, just affects how damages might be enforced. Have you noticed how a slight change of fact can affect the legal outcome? That's exactly the skill the SQE tests, and mastering it is key to exam success. I published books filled with MCQs, each built with 3 variations of a legal scenario to sharpen your analysis and deepen your understanding. It is a must-read to pass SQE1. Turn your ambition into qualification. Begin your SQE journey to become an English solicitor.